Welcome inside episode 513 of the Locked On Senators podcast. I'm Ross Levitan on the outskirts of enemy territory in Winnipeg, Manitoba, alongside Brandon Piller out in Fernie, BC. And the Ottawa Senators earn a 4-3 victory over the Seattle Kraken in overtime. And it wasn't without dramatics, but when Josh Norris does his best Chris Phillips impression in a milestone game, you know it's going to be a good night.
Yeah, the Ottawa Senators always find a way to keep it interesting, and they get a win up against their first ever game against the Seattle Kraken. And Ross, we got an exciting Belleville Senators weekend with you featured on the call.
Certainly. So naturally, we got David Foote on the show. He'll be doing the play-by-play, has been all year. So it's a Belleville Senators mid-season report, and we got stick taps to the greatest goalie in Ottawa Senators history. Yes, a milestone for Craig Anderson tonight. All that and more. This is the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.
Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Today is Friday, March 11th, and Pilsy, the Ottawa Senators are undefeated in franchise history against the Seattle Kraken.
1-0, you love to see it, and it almost was 0-1. It got a little close there. The Sens are up 3-0, and DJ Smith said it in the post-game press conference. This was a team that sat back a little, being like, all right, Seattle's one of the worst teams in the league. We're up 3-0. We're at home. And they get burned by it. And I loved his quote, Ross. He said, that's a lesson where you love to learn that lesson with the win, not with the loss. Because if you learn that lesson with the loss, it's a rough ride home, even though you're at the CTC. But you don't feel so good in the morning. They can feel good in the morning. And Josh Norris can certainly feel good in the morning.
What a way to start a 5-game homestand with a victory in front of a great crowd at the Canadian Tire Center, with the mandates being removed in terms of capacity limits. So here we go. The Senators put on a show for them, and it was a fantastic play from Brady Tkachuk to open the scoring, finding Josh Norris on the far side back post, bang, and it's in the back of the net, beating Chris Driedger, another Sens abroad there. Finally, the Sens getting some luck against a former goalie, Ben Bishop, Robin Leonard, Brian Elliott. Those guys always came back to haunt the Sens. Not you, Driedger. Not you, buddy. But this was really just the Josh Norris and Brady Tkachuk show as far as I'm concerned. They each had a goal and an assist for Brady, two goals for Josh Norris. So multi-point nights for both. Tim Stützle gets an assist. He extends his point streak to 4. Pilsy, it's the guys you want to see producing that are doing just that. How much more special does that make a big win right at the end of the day?
Oh, it makes it so much more special, especially since Josh Norris, he's just coming back off injury, only a handful of games, and it's like he didn't miss a beat. He's still in his office. He's still automatic. When he gets a pass right on his tape from that side, the goalie has to make an amazing save just to have a chance at it, because he has one of the best one-timers I've seen in a long time. And Ross, we love to talk about momentum goals. This game started off, the Seattle Kraken seemingly scored first. Appleton, it goes off his stick. The video coach for the Senators remains hot. That's offside. They call it coach's challenge. It gets called back. And the very next shift, Josh Norris gets that goal. So that's what you love to see. What a bounce back.
And the play is, and the rule is, that you can go across the blue line before the puck if you have possession. But clearly Appleton had lost control of the puck, and he was trying to fight to get it. And it was just a little bit of a comedy of errors. And next thing you know, doop, doop, DJ gets the bat signal, and they are now 6 for 7 on challenges. Now, the one they didn't get put them down 5-on-3. Oopsie daisies. Florida end up scoring on that one in the game down in against the Panthers last week or 2 weeks ago. But now you're looking at a situation where you're revitalized, and then you go down and score moments later. Next shift, if I'm not mistaken.
Next shift, yep.
So that's great, man.
Yeah, that's how you get it done. And the fans, what a moment from being like, oh man, we're down 1-0 to the Seattle Kraken. Within a minute later, you're on your feet cheering because our guy Josh Norris scores. Your guy, who you put out a bold guarantee, a guaranteed power play goal for Josh Norris. So you weren't quite satisfied with that first one, but he helps you out in OT.
My biggest play tonight, betonline.net, was a Josh Norris goal plus the Senators win plus 450. So cha-ching, stay hot,
go.
Levitan. My next plays are going to be on the Belleville Senators this weekend. Are you allowed to wager on games that you're calling? I don't know. No rules here, buddy. We're all just having a good time. But no, I can't wait for that. Can't wait to hear everyone here, David Foote, give the insight on the Belleville Senators. And we recorded this with him before the game against Providence, and it was almost as though he was projecting what was about to happen, because we talked about how Lassi had gone 7 games without a point. He gets a goal. We talked about how Cole Reinhardt is a favorite of Troy Mann. He has a huge game, goal and assist for him. So everything we spoke about was magnified after that game against Providence, Belleville, with a 4-1 victory. So keep that in mind when he gives you a stat like the Belleville Sens are 7. Actually, no. Well, Delzato didn't score. So
that was the one I was going to say. That's the one thing that didn't come true.
Yep. All right, cool. So we will get to that. We have a couple more notes we want to get to. Let's hit a quick break. And also, we should mention, if you want to know more about tonight's game, you want some immediate reaction, why not check out the Locked On Senators postcast that we provide after each and every Ottawa Senators game. We have so much fun in the chat with that. And if you miss it live, you can always go back and find it wherever you are listening to this podcast right now or on the YouTube channel. We also have a giveaway, and we're going to be doing a lot of these. So Dylan reached out. Dylan, a good Newfoundlander, good Newfie Sens fan. We always appreciate them around on this show. So Dylan reached out, and he just wants to get into the conversation. So I want everyone to go give him a follow as well at Fighting Stützle. So great username, great handle on there too. And we doubled his followers just on the first giveaway. So nothing wrong with that, from 50 up to 100. And we're giving away, I'm not going to pull it up, but just right there, that's the Chris Phillips autograph card. So if you're into hockey cards, like, that's a great get. And then we also have a Josh Norris rookie card that we'll be giving away also. So follow at Send Central on Twitter, follow at Fighting Stützle, and be aware for more great giveaways. He sent me, we've got a signed Jeff Sanderson card, which I think Sens fans would be intrigued by. A signed Ridley Gregg, Brandon Wheat Kings card. There's some good ones that are coming down the pipeline, Pilsy. So I just got a text from Dylan. We're going to give that away at the end of the show. He just picked the winners. So don't yell at us if you did what you had to do. One of them was to subscribe to the show on YouTube. The other was follow along to all of our accounts. And I'm not picking the winner, so save your mad messages for, send them to Pilsy.
Or save your thanks for Dylan as well. If you end up being the winner, you can thank him.
I think we should thank Dylan. Maybe we'll send him some Built Bars. Built Bars are unbelievable, and they are all the rave for people who are trying to maintain their New Year's resolution, but not trying to give up their happiness to do so. So go to built.com right now and check out the promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off your next order of Built Bars, because they're all low calorie, they're all high sugar. You can literally just replace your candy bars with these and feel so much better about the same delicious flavor. So we recommend getting the mix box, but you can go see all the great things that Built Bar has on their site. Built Bar is all about the taste. They make it taste delicious first and then figure out how to make it healthy. And I don't know how, but they pull it off every time. So go to built.com, use promo code LOCK15 for 15% off your next order. It's promo code LOCK15 for 15% off your next order at built.com. All right, Pilsy. So Craig Anderson gets win number 300. We talked about former Senators goalies, but we had heard from Mike McKenna, I believe, from years ago. He was saying that, he said recently on Wally Mathot that when he played with Craig Anderson, it was always in the back of his head. He's only the 5th American-born goalie to reach this milestone. It's truly remarkable, and it couldn't happen to a better guy or a more underrated goalie of the last decade.
Yeah, I mean, if you ask a Sens fan, they know and they understand what Craig Anderson is able to do, especially in the playoffs. I mean, this guy, greatest goalie in Senators franchise history. And Ross, a little extra, as you like to say, je ne sais quoi to that 300th win. How about getting it on Eichel's return to Buffalo? Yes. Just a little extra oomph sticking it to Eichel. I mean, the Buffalo fans, they let him know that they weren't too happy with him. And he gave it right back to them too, saying that's the loudest he's heard that building. And it only took him 7 years to leave to hear that building get on their feet. So you'll have that back and forth, but back to the point, stick taps to Andy.
Yeah, sorry, it's 5 goalies before Craig Anderson had 300 wins. So U.S. born. So Craig Anderson is the 6th U.S. born goalie with 300 wins. Should I make you guess the other 5? I think you could get 2. I think you could get 2.
U.S. born?
Yes.
Not
you
Tim
have
Thomas.
to get 1.
He didn't play
No, but you have to get 1. He's played playoff series against Ottawa before. You're going to be so mad when I tell you.
No. Ryan Miller. Oh my God.
There you go.
Okay.
There you go.
Buffalo
Ryan
goalie.
Miller. Yeah. You're off the hook. Tell me how many of these names you think you may have gotten otherwise. Sorry, I just lost my spot there. It's we have Mike Richter at 301. So Craig Anderson can still pass him. I think that might be the only
legendary U.S. goalie
left to pass. Jonathan Quick, 351. Yep. Tom Barrasso, former senator for a cup of coffee, 369. And John Van Beesbrook, 374. Although Ryan Miller's first. So to do it as a Buffalo goalie to hit 300, where Ryan Miller had a lot of his wins, that's awesome. It's, I guess, nice that it didn't happen against Ottawa, but it would have been kind of fun at the same time. Craig Anderson just deserves all the love, and great family as well. My buddy reminded me, and I don't know if you recall, but when I met Nicole Anderson at Madison Square Garden, yeah, and she noticed I was wearing the Brian 5 or 6, the cartoon Sens t-shirt, and she noticed it and wanted a photo with us. So great family. And
just saying hi to fans, Ross? Just shaking hands, kissing babies.
That was actually about a week after we joined Locked On. So nobody knew who the heck we were at that point. Pillsy, speaking of goalies, before we get to David Foote, you had a note on one of the Sens prospects who you thought, ooh, that caught your attention.
Yeah, I mean, Levitan, our guy, again, got to shout out Sens Prospects. Check it out at Sens Prospects on Twitter. 34 saves en route to his 25th win of the season. And say what you want, maybe his numbers aren't as good as you would hope, but look at that record. I mean, he just racks up wins wherever he goes, and I'm so excited to get to see him playing some meaningful games up in the playoffs here with Kingston.
I'm excited to see meaningful games in the American Hockey League with more young Belleville goalies. Not sure what's going on with Kevin Mandolese. I'll find out at the morning skate. So reporter
he did leave the game with an injury. We're not sure how serious though.
But I'm excited to see Mads because he got the short end of the stick in that opening game that we saw in Laval.
And Mads doesn't get the short end of anything very often.
Nice. All right. Let's hit our final break, get to David Foote, and then we'll just go right into Belleville talk. So we'll get this out of the way, but I should be a little nicer to my friends at BetOnline because I just cashed in big time tonight at betonline.net. They're your home for all the sports wagering needs, from latest odds, totals, player performance props to where the next fired coach is going to land. BetOnline.net is the #1 spot for all your sports betting needs. BetOnline remains the best spot for your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. It's everything. Hoops, college hoops. Things are heating up in that world if that's your thing. Hockey, boxing, UFC, right down to the nitty-gritty of what you need. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. It's betonline.net, where the game starts. All right, let's get to today's interview, where we're joined by Belleville Senators broadcaster. It's David Foote. All right, we now welcome on a very special guest and friend of the show back to the program. Although it's the first time in the YouTube era, I had to go all the way back to February of 2019 when David Foote made his maiden voyage on Locked On Senators. He returns today as the coordinator of broadcast and communications for the Belleville Senators. Footy, welcome back, pal. How you doing today?
Well, thanks for having me, guys. Happy to be here. I'm doing all right. A little bit busy prepping for a 3 o'clock game here. So hopefully you guys don't keep me too long. You know, we got a big one here against Providence this afternoon, but no, it's good. I'm glad to be back.
You already dated the thing. No, we're dropping this on Friday, recording Wednesday. We want a nice, we're doing a nice mid-season report on the Belleville Senators ahead. And if you're listening to this today on Friday, you can listen to Footy and I calling the game at the Canada Life Center in Winnipeg tonight and tomorrow. We're fired up for that. So, Footy, what are fans that are just tuning into the Belleville Senators going to expect to see? What kind of style of play does this team do under Troy Mann?
It's your pretty typical Troy Mann group, I would say. I mean, just like all of our teams in the last few years, it is a young team. A lot of teaching and a lot of learning happening here at the AHL level right now. It's not quite the same as we had, just prior to the pandemic with Batherson and Norris kind of leading the league and really excelling at the AHL level. We've got a lot of guys who are still kind of working themselves up to that elite status, but it's a fun team to watch. They're fast. It's probably more physical than we've seen out of some Belleville Sens teams in the last couple of years, which has certainly increased the intensity in the building a little bit. It's there have been some growing pains, teams hovering around 500, but game after game, you can see what kind of potential this group has and what that could mean for the big club in the years ahead.
Now, this is finally a year where the team can go on more regular road trips, and you've been joining the team on these road trips. How important is it, do you think, for these guys, especially the young guys like Sokolov, Jarventie, to experience what a legit normal season in a pro league is like?
Yeah, it's important. As much as you have to learn all the systems and how to be a pro on the ice, you have to learn how to do that off the ice as well. And to be fair, a lot of these guys have come from solid junior programs where I think they've done a good job of preparing them for this level. Other than living by yourself, not being with billets, I think most of these guys are pretty well adjusted. But the road trips have been big for chemistry, if nothing else. You look at last season in Ottawa, the guys weren't really able to bond or team build away from the rink. They couldn't do any of that stuff. So this year, they've got their home base here in Belleville. They've been able to kind of put some roots down a little bit here and then take those road trips to bond as a group and to have a little bit of fun. And I think that's showing in their road record as well. Belleville's been an excellent team away from home this season. So they're a team that definitely embraces being away and kind of being together as a group. And I think the guys have enjoyed it a little bit more this season too, because we're traveling on 2 buses, which is something that is a first for us. So everybody kind of gets their own seat. There's room to spread out. Guys are.
They didn't have their own seat before?
Well, the rookies would have to double up. The broadcasters and the staff would have to double up.
Wow.
But now that we've with COVID concerns, we've got 2 buses, and I think it's been working out pretty well.
There you go. Awesome. And now the teams, I mean, they're getting on a bit of a roll right now, 6-3-1 in their last 10 games as well, including a huge win 6-5 over Rochester in their last one. Again, they will have played this game against Providence by the time you're listening to this, but in a wider scope here now, 47-48 games into the season, 5th in the North Division in points percentage, and that's how they're going to decide playoffs this year. Pilsy and I were just talking, man, like the unfortunate circumstances have avoided them to even play a playoff game yet in franchise history. So that, of course, I'm sure is the top of Troy Mann's to-do list this season. But as a goalie-friendly show, we know the most important thing to get there is great goaltending. And this year it's been a kind of by association, right? Like Mando's been up and down a little bit from Atlanta, but when he's there, he's starting to heat up at the AHL level. You got Gus back and forth between Ottawa. Have you noticed it's a little bit more difficult to get consistency when these guys are moving between leagues as they are? As we know, Mads is the only one who's been there all year.
Yeah, it is difficult, but if you look at the history of this team and goaltenders, I think last year we used 7. I think the year before that we might have used 8. Consistent goaltending has never been a luxury that the Belleville Senators have had at their disposal, in their brief history. So if anything, it's been probably more consistent this year than it has in the past. Just perhaps not what was expected, right? I think at the start of the season, the expectation was Murray and Forsberg up in Ottawa, Gus and Søgaard here, and then Kevin Mandolese getting some seasoning in Atlanta in the ECHL. But as the Sens fans will know, it's been a little bit of a carousel up with the big club as well, and that's translated down. So I think all things considered, our goaltenders have handled things very well. Both Sogi and Mando are more than willing to take the time to learn and adjust and develop themselves to be ready to jump into the NHL. You look at a guy like Gus, who is just now, I think, getting to that point where you could say, yeah, he's ready to be a full-time NHL goaltender. And we're seeing that here in his appearances here with us. So I think all three of those guys have done a nice job sharing the load, learning from each other. Mando and Søgaard are basically inseparable when they're around the team. So there's a real good bond and chemistry with them in the room as well. And I think all in all, when you look at the areas that have needed work and need addressing, goaltending has not been at the top of the list at all with this group this season. And to not have to worry about that has been a nice thing. And I also think a lot of the credit has to go to goaltending coach Justin Peters for his work with this group. Everybody just raves about Petey and the work that he does. And you can see how engaged he is with these young goaltenders and how much he wants to see them succeed, not just at the team level, but on an individual basis as well. So goaltending has been fantastic this year.
Yeah, even Matt Murray, when he spent his short stint down in Belleville, he made sure to talk about how important Justin Peters was to helping him get back to the NHL and feel comfortable. Now, speaking of veterans down in Belleville, we got a bit of a joke on the pod footy that in order for Belleville to get a win, Michael Del Zotto needs to score a goal. It seems like there's a correlation between wins and Uncle Deli goals. Tell us a little bit about his impact on the team as a veteran defenseman among a lot of other younger guys on that D-corps.
Boy, where do I start? The first I'm gonna try to look for our record with Del Zotto in the lineup while I chat here. But
it's probably impressive.
It is. I mean, he has been incredible, and I don't think anybody who has followed Michael Del Zotto's career is even a little bit surprised with the way that he has played in the American Hockey League. He's an elite defenseman, and there's a reason why his first goal of the season here was his first goal in the American Hockey League, and why he hadn't scored here before, because he never played here because he was far too good to be here. He's been outstanding. Forget what he's done for this group on the score sheet. He has been a leader in the dressing room. He has been a consummate professional, as you would expect from somebody with a dozen NHL seasons under their belt. And when you look at the other defensemen outside of Del Zotto, that's a young group. I mean, you've got Dylan Hetherington's here and Jack Doherty's here and Zach Leslie's here. But when you look at Lassi Thomson or Max Gannett as examples, Jonathan Aspero, they get to learn from JBD, of course, right? They are getting to be around a guy who has been around the NHL. He's seen it from basically every angle. He's had success. He's had poor seasons. And I think he's been happy to kind of share that experience with these guys. And that's going to pay huge dividends for the Senators Blue Line Corps moving forward. It's a shame for him, honestly, to be in the AHL. And I think that given the right opportunity in the NHL, he would probably be maybe not putting up quite the same numbers, but still contributing and still being a big piece of the puzzle. But certainly having him here has been invaluable, to say the least. It's been a huge, huge addition for us.
Leading the AHL in points per game for all defensemen who have played more than 20 of them. And I believe he just set a franchise record for most single season goals with 10. And he's played 22 games, I believe. Didn't Jordan Murray play 70 in the season?
Yeah, Jordan Murray. And he had a hat trick that season, I'm pretty sure Jordan Murray did. So Del Zotto. So when Del Zotto's in the lineup, Belleville is 13-8-1, 7-1 when he scores, and 9-4-1 when he has a point. So
that's why footy's a professional right there.
You're not far off. And I have to give some props to Joel Vanderland, our stats guy, who's been helping out with the media pack this year. Yeah,
friend of the show for sure.
Been helping out with the media pack, and he digs up all those little tidbits for us. So Deli's been incredible, and you guys might know he has a bit of a musical touch as well, and we're using his warm-up track right now too. So his fingerprints are all over the Sens right
multi-talented guy. Wow.
And if any of them need a house in Florida, he's their guy as well. So we know he's got his real estate license going as well. These young kids, though, I don't think they're going down to Florida to retire anytime soon. I wanted to ask you about Lassi Thomson in particular, because Ottawa got a taste of him earlier in the season. They got to see him play like 25 minutes in a couple of games. Like he wasn't as Guy Boucher would say, don't feed steak to a baby. He was getting the main course, dessert, and all the fixings on there as well. But in the AHL, 16 points already. I know that the offense has cooled down a little bit of recent, but Pillsy and I have always had a tough time figuring out what he's going to be at the next level, because when he was drafted, I think he had like 18 or 20 goals in the WHL. Then he goes over to play against men and really translated his game to be more of a defensively responsible guy. Is there a bit of combining those two things now at the AHL, where we are seeing some offense, but still maybe not at the beheadment of his defensive play?
Yeah, he's pointless in 7, but I think and I've been saying the same thing about Jacob Bernard-Docker lately as well. I've had some people saying, well, JBD, he put up points in college. He's a contributor. And yeah, he is. But the AHL game and the college game and even the AHL game and the WHL game or the European game are all very, very different. And I think we have to remember that with young defensemen, their job is to play defense, right? They are here first and foremost to learn how to be responsible defensively, how to get the job done at that end of the ice before they can translate up the other end and start to score again. I think that's what we're seeing with maybe more so JBD compared to Lassi, who has had a little bit of offensive flair. Power play time is a big piece of that. But the fact of the matter is these young defensemen have to learn to play defense. And if they don't, they're never going to be successful at the NHL level. So until they've got that locked down, then you can start working into the nuances of, okay, how do I translate this into offensive play at the other end of the rink? And for Lassi, I'd say he's probably a step ahead of JBD in that sense, where we have seen some changes in his offensive game. One of the things that was talked about last year with him was Lassi has a fantastic slap shot. I think a lot of people know that he can let the Tom bomb, he can let it go, but he doesn't have as much time to do that in the AHL. So one of the big things was, let's teach him to shorten his shot a little bit, use the wrister, use the half clapper, just get pucks to the net. And he's been doing that and he's been finding success. Whereas I think JBD is still kind of working a little bit on honing that defensive game before they can say, all right, kid, turn on your offensive brain, get up there and help us put some goals up on the board.
Does Lassi have a bit of a mean streak to him as well? I saw he got 10'd up in the last game, and he had another big game. He's got almost 50 PIMs on the year.
I don't want to attribute anything from the officiating last game to trends for the whole season. In general, and I'll say I talked to some of the off-ice officials, some other folks. I don't think anybody was expecting the type of tone that the game against Rochester last week took. It was physical from the get-go, and I think the refs kind of lost it early, with all due respect to them and the extremely difficult job that they do. But as far as Lassi's mean streak, I haven't really seen it. Like, he probably just said something that maybe he wasn't supposed to. Right. I have kind of dubbed him as the Kawhi Leonard of the Belleville Senators. He's our resident fun guy. You know, like he's always got a smile on his face. You can tell that him and Sokolov too, like they just love being here and playing the game, and they just love being pro hockey players. And I haven't seen the mean streak yet, but I wouldn't rule it out. I think a lot of our defenders are kind of like that for the most part. They're pretty calm, cool, collected, and easy to deal with. But if you rub them the wrong way enough, that fuse will go, and there'll be a little bit of fireworks there for sure.
Pillsy, who was it in the World Juniors that Lassi was getting into? Is it Pinto?
It was Pinto.
Nice. Prospect on prospect crime.
Yeah, exactly. And hey, you mentioned Egor Sokolov. I think every Sens fan's most likable prospect. Now, what can you tell us about how Egor has progressed now that he's in his second season in the AHL? I mean, he had success in his first season, even though it was a short one, but what are some of maybe the major differences you've noticed in his game from this season compared to last?
I think he's seeing how difficult this league is compared to, I'll use my air quotes, the AHL of last season. And
right.
And Troy Mann likes to use the number 25%. He likes to say the AHL is 25% better this year than it was last year. So I think early in the season, we were seeing a lot of teams kind of key in on Sokolov. They know what he's good at. They know where he likes to shoot from. they know how to slow him down a little bit. So he's kind of had to learn how to adjust his game and do some things differently, maybe, instead of being the floater up at the top of the circle, waiting for the puck to come to you. You might have to go get it and make something happen yourself. And he's a big boy, so he obviously has that ability. He just has to learn how to do that. Otherwise, I think it's the Egor Sokolov that everybody has come to know and love early on, right? He's still a fan favorite. He's still, the first guy on, last guy off kind of mentality, trying to do as much as he can to build himself as a player. And he's got that wicked shot, and he's got good legs, and he's strong. It's just a matter, I think, of him really gaining that confidence to say that, yeah, I can take over a game now and really be a difference maker, rather than one of just the many pieces of the puzzle that need to fit in order for this team to be successful.
Returned last weekend after missing 8 games with a shoulder injury. Leads the team in plus minus, which is, obviously a stat that you can argue its merits, but whenever you're either leading or last on a team, I do think it is noteworthy for that. Another guy who's being noteworthy, and we can't let you go before asking about this guy, not even affiliated with Ottawa, but you can't help but look at the top of the point production and see Jake Lucchini, a guy who I believe had 8 points last year and now has upwards of 34 right now in 47 games. He's also the only player on this team that's played in all 47 games so far for Belleville. So what has his presence meant for this squad?
Yeah, he's the Iron Man right now. And I think when he was acquired from Laval at the start of the season, I think it was a pleasant surprise that, nobody expected Jake Lucchini to come in and be one of the top 3 scorers on this team. But I think for him, it's one of those opportunities where you're going to get more playing time. You're a little bit less buried than maybe he was in Laval and in that organization. Not to say that we don't have some studs here up front, but this is a guy who's, getting with playing time can come confidence. With confidence can come success. And I think it's just one of those situations. He's found himself in a good spot. He likes the group. He likes the city. And he's just seems to be happy and enjoying his hockey. And when that's happening, it's easy to be successful. It helps when you play with guys like Andrew Agozzino, and Chris Wilkie has been excellent as well for us since coming over from Rockford. Really a perfect storm, I think, leading to Jake Lucchini's success. And the consistency has certainly been a big part of why this team has been, we'll say successful, because it has been a successful campaign, though maybe not quite as much as Troy and his staff would like to see at this point of the season.
Still a lot of runway left, though, Footy. And when I'm looking though at Jake Lucchini, he has more points this year than he had in his AHL career that spanned parts of 4 seasons before that. So it really shows you really had the step that he's taken in his game, maybe earning a contract in the NHL at some point, like a 2-way, of course, but in right now being on a 1-way AHL, it's incredible. Pills, you got a last one for a Footy?
Yeah. So speaking of Belleville's success in footy, we can't thank you enough for taking the time to join us. Last question. No worries, boys. Thank you very much. Last question for me. In the offseason of 2020, Pierre Dorion mentioned how probably the most disappointing thing about COVID shutting things down was Belleville was not given the opportunity to go on a playoff run like they were gearing up to. They were first in their division. Batherson, Norris, Formanton, all of these guys were absolute studs ready to break out. Joey Decord, another guy there. How important is it for this franchise, for this team, for these players to get a chance to play in meaningful games? I mean, all these games are meaningful this season because they're right in the hunt, but how important and how much emphasis are the coaching staff putting on this team getting to the playoffs and having these guys build chemistry in very important games?
It's imperative. It's no question must make the playoff season for the Belleville Senators. And from day one of training camp, that was on the radar. Troy Mann said, our goal from right now, and this was 2 weeks before the season started, is the Calder Cup playoffs. We will get into the playoffs this year. You guys kind of alluded to it a little bit earlier, the unfortunate circumstances that have led to this team not making the playoffs. 17-18, not a good team. Easy to say, no question that they would miss the playoffs. 18-19, they missed by 1 point after losing to Rochester in the final.
Came down to the last game. Yeah, that was close.
That would have made a difference. And then 1920, you have a team that arguably could have won an AHL championship, and you get shut down by COVID. And then last year, of course, no playoffs because of that as well. So for the players and their development, it's huge to get in and get to play those more meaningful games. We'll say those games with something on the line more than just the points. But I think for our franchise and for our city and for our fans, it's so crucial for this team to get in, and for the people here in Belleville and for Sens fans outside of the Quinte region to get a chance to experience the Calder Cup playoffs and the drama and the action and opportunity that brings. It's going to be so important for this team to get in, even if it's only the first round, right? Because they've changed the structure this year for the AHL playoffs. So even if I'm confident if they get into the first round, they'll make the second round at least. But even that best of 3 first round would be huge to get into, for all those reasons that I mentioned. You look at some of the more successful NHL teams right now, Tampa Bay Lightning, Carolina Hurricanes, it goes on and on. The Toronto Maple Leafs, sure. All of those teams and more have built their success through the AHL and have won Calder Cups in the last X amount of years, or come close before their NHL team lifted Lord Stanley, Leafs aside, of course. So, it's very important, long story short, and we're really looking forward to getting some playoff hockey here at CAA Arena in about a month's time.
Yes, and we can't wait, and we're going to be pushing for all fans to get to CAA and go see a game. There isn't a bad seat in the house. It's a great sightline arena. We hope everyone gets down to that. Final question for me, Footy. Again, friend of the show. We always appreciate having you on and helping us get guys like Mark Kastelik and Jacob Bernard Docker and so on and so forth. It's been an awesome relationship, and we really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to seeing you this weekend as well, maybe having a couple wobblies afterwards and all that. So final question, though.
Might happen.
Because we talk about the importance of Belleville making the playoffs, but I think if you're looking at a Sens fan and asking what's the most important part of the rebuild, it's a 2020 draft. And you got 4 players already playing in the AHL from that draft. Now, I know Daou went back. Looks great in the queue, though. But these other 3 guys, we already talked about Egor Sokolov. Now, Roby, it's streaky with him, right now. But again, he's a young player in the league. But when he's on, like, what is it that makes him special and gives you those flashes of brilliance when you look at him play? And then I got to follow up with a question about Rhino afterwards. But when it comes to Roby, like, what makes him such a good prospect?
Yeah, he's interesting because he's the quietest kid. Like he doesn't talk a lot. Has a lot of fun in the room, and him and Lassi obviously hang out together a fair bit. But I think at this point, he's still trying to learn as well, like the defensemen are. I think he forgets that because he's so young, he's actually kind of a big boy, right? And he's 6'3", 198, and I think he's got to learn a little bit how to play that more power forward type of role, not be afraid to get dirty, get into the corners. Like I said about Sokolov, go find the puck. Don't wait for the puck to come to you so you can shoot. Go find it. And these are guys that can shoot maybe similar to a Josh Norris type of spot on a power play or on an in zone possession, but are bigger and need to use that size. So I think that's kind of what he's learning. But as far as what makes him successful, I mean, the kid can shoot incredible.
That
he's got
release is amazing.
Oh my God. It's like, yeah, I mean, we talk about Norris's release, and Roby can't be too far off and a few years younger. Like if he's got the time and space, he'll probably bury. But again, it's about how do I create that time and space? How do I generate those opportunities for myself? That's what he's still kind of trying to figure out. And, he's down the depth chart a little bit here as a young player. So I think the more that he gains that experience, the more playing time he gets, the more that he will see success. And he's probably a couple years off, I would think, from finding himself in Ottawa full time. He's got to work his way up there, but I think he'll be there, maybe like a Nick Paul type sort of situation, right? Like Paulie had a grind to get to the NHL, and now he's a mainstay and hopefully will re-sign and stay with the Sens, because I love what he brings to the table, aside from what a great person he is. But that's probably a comparator, I think, for me, is Roby to Nick Paul maybe a little bit. And I think with the experience, with the games played, he will just continue to grow and develop for the Senators.
That's awesome. Roby does his work on the power play a lot, but with Cole Reinhardt, is he a guy who's quickly becoming a Troy Mann favorite in all situations?
He's becoming a favorite of most people, I think. He might not score every game, but he's going to probably get 1 to 7 chances. Like, the guy's all over the place. He works so hard, and his speed is maybe a little underrated. Like, his first 3 strides, his power strides are incredible. And when he gets ahead, again, maybe not quite at the level of an Alex Formenton, but the amount of breakaways he's able to generate for himself kind of makes me think of that. Even though he's kind of having the same luck that Formy did a couple years back, where it felt like every other game he was on a breakaway and just couldn't convert. But yeah, Rhino works so hard. Him and Kastelik are like the 2 best friends that anyone could have, and their chemistry is apparent when they're on the ice. They've been playing with Logan Shaw, and the 3 of them have been not necessarily unstoppable, but very difficult to deal with. And when you look at the depth in this team, we would not be where we are without the 20 points that Cole Reinhardt has added into the mix this season.
That's awesome, man. Really appreciate an awesome Belleville update from our boy David Foote. I'm not going to put you on the spot and ask you, but we're going to tell you that the excitement only gears up when you think of the potential of maybe even having a Shane Pinto, a Jake Sanderson, and even an Angus Crookshank be back either down the stretch or into the playoffs. A ton of fun to be had here starting this weekend. Belleville in Manitoba. Footy, we'll see you there, buddy. Really appreciate you jumping on with us today.
Yeah, looking forward to the trip and seeing you in person here in a couple days. Thanks for having me, guys.
Stick taps to Footy for joining us. What a great chat with a great dude. Can't wait to see him this weekend. So check us out, AHL TV or CJBQ, the Bay of Quinte Radio Network. All right, Pilsy. So the Belleville Senators back in action, and I'm sure you've noticed the climb up the standings of late.
Oh, yeah. And it's been huge for them to get up the standings. They are now in 4th. They passed the Rochester Americans. And again, we got a disclaimer. It's by points percentage. Rochester has 6 games in hand. Belleville is 6 points behind them. But the real thing here is they're equal games played with Laval and the Marlies. And the Marlies only have 1 more point, and Laval only has 2 more points. So they're right in the thick of things, right where you want them. And this is going to be a big, big weekend up against the Manitoba Moose, Ross.
It really is, for standings, and they get to play in the NHL barn there too. The Jets just recalled Ville Heinola as well, so that's on an emergency basis. We'll see if he's in the mix. Now, what's interesting too, I'm trying to figure out, and this is probably something I should have already known.
Is Perfetti up there as well, or is he? I don't know.
I didn't see him in Winnipeg's lineup tonight. He might be hurt right now. That's the only thing I can see, because he's not on the current roster for the Manitoba Moose. So there's really an opportunity here to come in and steal 2 games this weekend. And wouldn't that just be huge for the confidence of this team winning more on the road? They got 7 wins in their last 10 games. So if they can keep this up, it's going to be a huge boost, because nothing like getting hot at the right time, Pilsy. We know it was kind of win 1, lose 1 to the start of the season. But now, if they can keep this rolling, that's you're looking at going into the playoffs on a high note.
And Ross, we talked about the game up against Providence Bruins. That's a hot team that had won 9 of their last 10. Well, they got their work cut out for that with them again with the Manitoba Moose, because Manitoba is on a 3-game win streak, and they're 2nd in their division with 61 points.
Did you see what that dude did last weekend for the Manitoba Moose after his shootout game winner?
No, I didn't see that.
He just skated right off the ice. Like
the Matt Duchene move.
No, Ryan Johansson. Ryan Johansson.
Oh, I thought Matt Duchene did it as well.
No. So anyway, he scores on a shootout, and instead of waiting to celebrate with his teammates, he just walked right off the ice. Still walk off. Shout out baseball being back as well.
Well, he got dinner reservations at Winnipeg's finest restaurant after, so he had to head off the ice.
There's a few sick spots here. I just went to shout out no free ads Sioux Soul, a little speakeasy action a couple weeks ago. So there you go.
Well, it's not a speakeasy now if you're broadcasting it.
Yeah. Okay, power rankings right before we go. Who are the 5 players that I should most be paying attention to on the Belleville Senators this weekend? And I hope that people respond in the comments with who they want me to keep a keen eye on as well. Who would be your number 5 guy? Or do you want to count down or up?
Let's count down. So number 1, you can't miss him, Mad Søgaard. Let's see, get some good boots on the ground scouting because, as we mentioned, Mando, we're not sure how serious the injury is, but he did have to leave after 2 periods up against Providence. Mads mopped it up with 5 saves and an assist. So get you a goalie that can get a clean sheet and add to point totals there. You love to see that. So Mads is the number 1. Number 2, Jake Lucchini. Ross, I know he's not a prospect. I know he's only on an AHL contract, but this guy is an absolute legend for the Belleville Senators. Number 3, Egor Sokolov. Troy Mann mentioned that he wants to see a little more consistency out of Egor, so let's see him pump it back up. Number 4, Roby Jarventie. He's been playing much better lately, and that's a guy that Troy Mann has applauded his play of lately, and consistency has been an issue with Roby. So let's see if he can keep things consistent. And number 5, Uncle Deli. This is he's got to be the best defenseman in the AHL. He's absolutely lighting it up. As you guys heard from our friend Footy talking, he's been a consummate professional. He's been a guy that all these other young players on the D-Corps have been able to lean on, and he's taken a lot of the responsibility off their shoulders and putting up points while doing it. So let's see if this is just a fluke or he really is doing everything it seems he is from the stat sheet.
I will be following along with all those, and some honorable mentions that I know I want to watch is Mark Kastelik and Cole Reinhardt.
I mean, that line of those two and Logan Shaw, they were hot up against Providence, so hopefully they can keep things rolling.
And no disrespect to Lassi Thomson and Jacob Bernard Docker. There's so many guys, man. I think we just kind of
should we just name the whole team? Yeah.
I mean, no, but then we kind of proved the point. There's lots of intriguing pieces down on the farm in Belleville. So I hope you follow along. My handle's right there at Ross Levitan. You can follow Pillsy as well at Brandon Piller 1, the show at Sens Central, and subscribe to the show. And now that I'm being reminded here,
don't forget the card giveaways.
The card giveaways we've got. For the Chris Phillips card is going to Ryan Hobbs. Ryan Hobbs. Oh, he picked another Newfoundlander. Of course he did. Ryan Hobbs gets the Chris Phillips card. And Fred at 5 for biting. Fred's a beauty. He's going to be a Sens Central citizen soon. He reached out for that.
5 for biting is a great handle. I got to give sick taps for that.
Yeah, he's getting the Josh Norris card. So stay tuned to all that. And again, go follow Dylan at Fighting Stützle. Absolute beauty as well. Appreciate everyone joining us. Another week of Locked On Senators. No time to preview the game on Saturday, but you're damn right. We've got the postcast on deck afterwards. So join us in that postcast and subscribe. Turn the bell on as well so you know when the show goes live. Sometimes we share the streaming a little behind Inside Baseball here. We share the stream with 2 other shows. There's so many on the network. Makes sense. So sometimes the recording gets a little wonky, but we do go live as soon as we can. Tonight it was about 20 minutes. So if you missed the postcast on Thursday night, be sure to go back and listen to Pillsy. I'm just realizing people who watch on YouTube are going to think we slept in our clothes. This is one of those rare times where we record the night before. Very rare, actually, but we do have a travel day tomorrow, so we made it work.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't usually have a beer at 9 in the morning. So yes, this is a late night podcast recording, that's for sure.
So it's still late enough that we have not seen the helmet and shades video. We didn't forget about it, but we haven't seen it. However, if it's not Josh Norris, I don't even know anymore.
I mean, it could be Brady. I wouldn't be upset if it was Brady either.
I feel like we get it wrong every time. So maybe we'll get it wrong again, but it seems like an obvious choice.
Yeah, it should obviously be Norris, but hey, the boys in the room, they know better than anyone who deserves it.
Absolutely. All right. For now, we say goodbye. Have a great start to your weekend. We'll see you in the postcast after the Senators host the Chicago Blackhawks. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.